Hello and welcome to World Panorama. RSTV is a weekly show on all the biggest international news stories that unfolded this week. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Let us start the show with the top headlines. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wraps up Asia visit after talks with Prime Minister Modi, underlines importance of comprehensive sanctioning of terrorists and terror organizations by the United Nations. Kingdom to invest $100 billion in India on a petrochemical project. Britain revoking the citizenship of a teenager who fled to join the Islamic State. SHAMIMA Begum says will challenge the decision as European countries struggle with what to do about their citizens who joined the terrorist organization. No breakthrough yet on divorce deal as Theresa May travels to Brussels to unlock the Brexit stalemate with the EU. Faces prospect of a no-deal Brexit. British Prime Minister also firefights at home to prevent Tory defections and cabinet revolt. Summit of Central European leaders in Israel cancelled after Israeli officials accused Poland of complicity during Holocaust in World War II. Acting Israeli Foreign Minister says Poles had collaborated with the Nazis. Poland demands apology. And at least 78 people killed as a fire guts oldest part of Bangladeshi capital Dhaka. Blaze teared through apartment buildings that were used as chemical warehouses. Police investigating negligence. The top story this week, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wrapped up his three-nation South Asia tour this week. The Crown Prince visited China on the last leg of his tour. Bin Salman earlier visited India and Pakistan during his week-long trip. While in Pakistan, the Crown Prince promised $20 billion investments for that country. In India, he offered investment of $100 billion and also pledged all support against terror. The trip comes 5 months after the Crown Prince came under intense pressure following the killing of a journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Here is a report.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was on a three-stage Asia tour, including visits to Pakistan, India and China. At the beginning of his tour, Saudi Prince Salman arrived in Pakistan on Sunday, where he was welcomed with a fighter jet escort. After being personally chauffeured from the airport by Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, Prince Salman signed agreements worth $20 billion crucial injection of funds for an ailing economy. Saudis also announced the release of more than 2,000 Pakistani prisoners from their jails. The visit marks a deepening of ties between allies whose relationship has in the past seen oil-rich Saudi Arabia backing Pakistan's economy during difficult periods and Pakistan's army lending support to Saudi Arabia and its royal family in return.
Today we signed MOUs. We believe the amount of that kind of investment is $20 billion. It's big for phase one, and definitely it's gonna grow every month, every year.
After Pakistan, the Crown Prince arrived in Delhi on Tuesday, where he was welcomed at the airport by Prime Minister Narendra Modi with a warm hug. The Crown Prince described Modi as his elder brother, and Saudi officials talked of an even stronger relationship in the future. The kingdom committed to invest $100 billion in India on a massive petrochemical project.
والإرهاب وأمن المحيط الهندي نؤكد للهند.
We understand that the opportunities that India has in various fields is more than $100 billion in the coming 2 years. And we want that we both make investments that are beneficial and will achieve returns for both countries.
Crown Prince also ordered the release of 850 Indian prisoners lodged in his Saudi jails. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, India has decided to extend the e-visa facility to Saudi nationals. Crown Prince also announced the increase in quota for Indian Hajj pilgrims to 2 lakh. In another significant move, the two sides underlined the importance of comprehensive sanctioning of terrorists and terror organizations by the United Nations. Both leaders agreed there is a need to increase all possible pressure on countries supporting terrorism. The Prime Minister and the Crown Prince condemned in the strongest terms the recent terrorist attack on Indian security forces on 14th February that claimed lives of 40 CRPF personnel in the Kashmir's Pulwama district.
पुलवामा में हुआ बर्बर आतंकवादी हमला इस मानवता विरोधी खतरे से दुनिया पर छाए कहर की एक और क्रूर निशानी है। इस खतरे से प्रभावशाली ढंग से निपटने के लिए हम इस बात पर सहमत हैं कि आतंकवाद को किसी भी प्रकार का समर्थन दे रहे देशों पर सभी संभव दबाव बढ़ाने की आवश्यकता है। आतंकवाद का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नष्ट करना और इसको समर्थन समाप्त करना और आतंकवादियों और उनके समर्थकों को सजा दिलाना बहुत ही जरूरी है। मुझे खुशी है कि सऊदी अरब और भारत इस बारे में साझा विचार रखते हैं।
एक्सट्रीमिज्म और टेररिज्म की बात है जो हमारे कॉमन कंसर्न है। हम ये बात बताना चाहते हैं भारत को, हमारे दोस्त भारत को बताना चाहते हैं कि हम आपके साथ हर तरह का कोऑपरेशन करेंगे, चाहे वो इंटेलिजेंस शेयर ही हो, और न सिर्फ भारत बल्कि सारे जो हमारे आसपास हैं सबके साथ मिलकर काम करेंगे जो हमारे आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए भविष्य रोशन भविष्य को सिक्योर करे।
On the final stop of a sweep through Asia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman visited China, where he met Chinese President Xi Jinping, highlighting bilateral trade in oil and Chinese manufacturing. The two-day visit in Beijing focused on energy deals for China. China is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner, with total bilateral trade in goods standing at $63.3 billion last year. The trip comes 5 months after the Crown Prince came under intense pressure following the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
A British teenager who joined Islamic State, a terrorist organization, has been stripped of her UK citizenship. 19-year-old SHAMIMA Begum, who had expressed a desire to return to the UK with her newborn son, is now banned from entering the country. British authorities revoked her citizenship, saying that Begum's mother had dual citizenship of the UK and Bangladesh. However, Bangladesh says that Begum was not its citizen and there is no question of her being allowed back into the country. The move has left not only Begum without any nationality, but has also raised a bigger question on the future of the Islamic State terrorists and their families who wish to return home to their respective nations.
US President recently declared that IS group is on the verge of collapse from its pockets in the Middle East. But now debate is raging over how to deal with those who joined the terrorist group but want to return home to their respective countries. A case in point that of SHAMIMA Begum, a London teenager who left Britain 4 years ago to join the Islamic State group. She now wants to return home. SHAMIMA was found in a Syrian refugee camp last week after reportedly leaving Baghouz, IS's last stronghold, and gave birth to a son at the weekend. However, UK government does not want her back. She was stripped of her UK citizenship by the government.
It now transpires that the mother of Ms. Begum appears to be a Bangladesh national. By Bangladesh law, that would mean that Ms. Begum is a Bangladesh national. That means that she doesn't have only British nationality. Therefore, if her British nationality is removed, she is not stateless. The Home Secretary, therefore, in law, is acting within his power, it would appear, in removing her British nationality.
Under the British Constitution, a person can be deprived of their citizenship if the Home Secretary is satisfied it would be conducive to the public good and they would not become stateless as a result. However, SHAMIMA's lawyer says they were disappointed with the decision and were considering all legal avenues to challenge it. The case has reignited a debate in UK and elsewhere how to deal with the homecomers. US President Donald Trump has demanded that European countries take back their citizens who fought in Syria, but European nations are worried about their security.
I think that there will be a mixed reception to this, but the vast majority, I suspect, of British people don't particularly want Miss Begum back in this country.
Begum was found this month by the Times newspaper in a refugee camp in Syria. She said she had fled the Islamic State group's last enclave. The teenager said she had married an IS fighter, had lost 2 children through malnutrition and disease, and wanted her newly born baby boy to grow up in Britain. However, she has insisted she has no regrets about traveling to Syria. She has also been criticized for likening the deaths of 22 people in the Manchester Arena terror attack to the civilians being bombed in Islamic State territory. British Home Secretary Sajid Javid insists he would prevent the return of Britons who travelled abroad to join the Islamic State group, a position that makes the future of Shamima Begum and her newborn child and other IS fighters who want to return home to their respective nations unclear. Islamic State has lost most of the territory it once controlled, but between 1,000 and 1,500 militants are believed to be left in a 50 square kilometer Syria's border with Iraq. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With the 29th of March approaching, Brexit Day is only weeks away and still no deal is in place. Theresa May travelled to Brussels to hold talks with the EU and said that progress had been made over the Irish backstop issue, but added that time was running out to secure changes needed for a deal to press through the House of Commons. Now, what has complicated matters for May is that many members of the opposition Labour Party, as well as some of the members from her governing Conservative Party, quit their respective parties and will sit as independent MPs, making unclear which way they will go when British Parliament eventually votes on the Brexit deal. Just days to go before Britain leaves the European Union. But the divorce deal has not been agreed upon by the two sides. British Prime Minister Theresa May returned to Brussels on Wednesday and held what were called constructive talks. May told European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker that she needed legally binding changes to the Irish backstop if MPs were to back her Brexit deal.
Well, I've had a constructive meeting with President Juncker this evening. I've underlined the need for us to see legally binding changes to the backstop that ensure that it cannot be indefinite. That's what is required if a deal is to pass the House of Commons. We've agreed that work to find a solution will continue at pace. Time is of the essence, and it's in both our interests that when the UK leaves the EU, it does so in an orderly way.
Despite the progress reported, the high-stakes meeting in Brussels yielded no obvious breakthrough. The two leaders promised to talk again before the end of the month. Indeed, the sticking point has been the issue of Irish backstop. The backstop is an arrangement to avoid a hard border between European Union member Ireland and British-ruled Northern Ireland after Brexit.
The current text uses the word temporary to describe the backstop. So what we need to do is to put some flesh on the bone of what temporary actually means. And I think that given that the EU has always been very clear that the backstop can only be a temporary measure, with political will and conviction, we can find a way to solve that problem.
What has made matters more difficult for Theresa May is the spate of defections from Labour and the Conservatives. That is likely to complicate the Prime Minister's quest for a majority. This new group of defectors, free to vote and speak as they like, can now make the case for a softer Brexit or even a second vote. It would completely break the parliamentary arithmetic and cause the UK to stumble into a no deal.
Well, I'm saddened by the decision that three former members of my party have taken today. They have given dedicated service to our party over a long time, and I thank them for it. Of course, the question of the UK's relationship with the European Union has been a source of disagreement in my party and also in the country for a long time, and leaving the European Union after over 40 years was never going to be easy.
Britain is due to leave the European Union on 29th of March, but diplomats say London effectively now has less than a month to find a solution, as it would have to be agreed about a week before a summit of the EU national leaders on 21st and 22nd of March. After meeting British Prime Minister in Brussels, Juncker joked that May was not to blame for a shaving injury on his cheek. He said he cut his face while shaving, joking, "Don't think that Mrs. May was responsible." Privately, officials are in no joking mood, with frustration over Brexit running high. No final divorce deal has been reached, and politics in the UK is also spiraling out of control. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. In World Panorama, we'll take a very short break. More international news stories that made headlines this week are coming up ahead. Stay tuned.
Nestled in the thick woods of Delhi's northern ridge near Malsha Marg, once existed the palace of Rani Vilayat Mahal, the claimant royal belonging to the erstwhile kingdom of Awadh. 4 decades back, Vilayat Mahal came to Delhi after being ousted from the royalty. She came here with 2 children, Ali Raza and Sakina, some guards, her greyhound dogs, gems and jewellery, carpets, collection of books and private correspondence, as per the information goes. She began living at the fences of New Delhi railway station near State Entry Road in protest seeking rehabilitation. After she wrote to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, Vilayat Mahal was given to stay in a hunting lodge in the middle of the canvassing ridge. The claimant princess passed away in 1993, leaving her 2 children, Sakina and Ali Raza, in solitude and cut off from the outside world. Few years ago, Sakina too passed away. After demise of his mother and sister, Prince Ali Raza continued to live here without electricity, water, phone line, in his hunting lodge, his fortress. Afraid of the modern world, unwelcoming to the suspicious movers and withdrawn, Ali Raza died on September 2, 2017, with many thoughts and unrestrained melancholy for today's world, which he saw from a rather close distance.
A summit of Central European leaders in Israel has been cancelled after Israeli officials sparked outrage by accusing Poland of complicity during the Holocaust. Poland pulled out of the summit in protest over remarks made by acting Israeli foreign minister, who said that Poles had collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. Now, Poland described the remarks as racist and unacceptable and has sought an apology. After the diplomatic row, the Israeli hosted a summit of the V4 group comprising Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary and Slovakia was cancelled.
Poland and Israel bickering over Poland's role in World War II, Poland pulled out of a planned V4 summit in Israel. This after Israel's acting foreign minister in an interview said that many Poles had collaborated with the Nazis in World War II and shared responsibility for the Holocaust.
In diplomacy, we always try to ensure people don't get offended. Poles collaborated with Nazis.
Poland called the statement totally unacceptable.
The words spoken by Israeli foreign minister are unacceptable, not only in diplomacy, but for me they are unacceptable anywhere in public. Poland was the nation that suffered most, along with Jews and Roma, during World War II.
Israel later conceded that Poland's absence met the summit of V4 group, compromising Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary and Slovakia, with only 3 of the 4 members attending, would be cancelled. Poland says Czech Republic, Hungary and Slovakia too had been shocked by the comments and stood in solidarity. The leaders of these nations held back-to-back talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging both the countries, Poland and Israel, to resolve their diplomatic dispute. The US ambassador to Poland has also called for an apology from Israel for the comment.
It's always better together with them than without them, of course. So I think it would be better that they would be here, and we have good friendship to Poland, as you know. Even we are close cooperation in the European level, and we have a good friendship with Israel. And when you have two friends having a discussion with each other, the only hope you can have is that they will talk directly with each other and improve the situation. That's my hope also.
The diplomatic row has been escalating since last week when some Israeli media reported remarks by Netanyahu in which he appeared to accuse the Polish nation of involvement in the Holocaust. However, Netanyahu's office said he had been misquoted. Tensions between Israel and Poland also rose last year after Poland introduced new legislation that would have made the use of phrases such as Polish death camps punishable by up to 3 years in prison. However, after pressure from the United States and an outcry in Israel, Poland watered down the legislation, scrapping the prison sentences. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's take a look at some more international news stories in Globe Watch. A court in Maldives ordered the arrest of former President Abdullah Yameen on suspicion of money laundering. Yameen is accused of receiving $1 million of government money through a private company, SOF Private Limited, which has been implicated in a corrupt deal to lease tropical islands for hotel development. After a 2.5-hour remand hearing, the prosecutors sought a court order to detain the former president. The court ruled that Yameen should be taken into custody and detained until the end of his trial. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia will respond to any deployment of intermediate-range nuclear weapons in Europe by targeting not only the country where the missiles are stationed, but the United States itself. In his annual address to Federal Assembly, Putin said that Russia was not seeking confrontation and would not take the first step to deploy missiles in response to the US withdrawal from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, but he said that Russia's reaction to any deployment would be resolute and that US policymakers should calculate the risks before taking any steps. A Japanese court has awarded nearly $4 million in fresh damages to scores of residents forced to flee their homes after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear meltdown. The Yokohama District Court ordered the government and Tokyo Electric Power Company to pay 419.6 million yen to 152 local residents. The verdict was the fifth time the government has been ruled liable for the disaster in eastern Japan, the world's most serious nuclear accident since Chernobyl in 1986. And on to the other top story this week. Close to 78 people were killed as a fast-moving fire swept through the historic district of Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka. The blaze broke out in a residential building that had flammable chemicals stored on one of the floors. It then quickly spread to nearby buildings. Firefighters struggled to put out the blaze, hindered by the narrow lanes and lack of water sources. The victims also included people outside the buildings, some guests at a restaurant, and members of a bridal party.
Huge blaze tearing through apartment buildings in Dhaka. The buildings were used as chemical warehouses. Dozens of people were trapped in the buildings, unable to escape onto narrow streets clogged with traffic as the highly combustible stores of chemicals, body sprays and plastic granules erupted in flames.
I have lost my niece, her husband and my grandson. I'm waiting with coffins for their bodies. When we get the bodies, then we will take the bodies for burial.
The blaze at Chowk Bazaar in the old part of the city began around 10:40 p.m. on Wednesday. It may have started with a gas cylinder before quickly spreading through a building where chemicals were stored. The flames raced through 4 adjoining buildings which were also used as chemical warehouses. The centuries-old Chowk Bazaar district has very narrow streets and residential buildings only inches apart. The blaze took hours to be extinguished despite the efforts of more than 200 firefighters. Members of a bridal party in a nearby community center were also caught in the fire and many of them were injured. At least 45 people were also injured, including 4 who were in critical condition. Hundreds of people rushed to the hospital to look for missing relatives.
We join in a special prayer today. Pray to Allah for the people who died in the fire incidents, for salvation of their departed souls.
A similar blaze in 2010 in an old Dhaka building, which was also used as a chemical warehouse, killed more than 120 people in one of the worst fire-related disasters in Dhaka. Dhaka city authorities launched a crackdown on chemical warehouses in residential areas following the blaze, but efforts to rein in the practice have waned in recent years. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's all in this edition of A World Panorama. But before we go, take a look at the blue faces all round as a small town in southern Germany broke the world record for the largest meeting of Smurfs ever. 2,762 people were counted towards a new Guinness World Record in the town of Lothringen, all in blue face paint and obligatory blue and white costumes. Now dressed as Papa Smurf, Smurfette and other beloved characters from the Belgian comic franchise, blue people danced and cheered to the Smurfs theme song. So we leave you with these colorful visuals. I'll see you next week with another edition of World Panorama. Bye-bye.